So how is everyone doing tonight on this beautiful Wednesday? I know we've had so much going on. Things have been going fast. I'm like, what day is it? Oh, it's Wednesday. Absolutely love it though. On this good to go. All right. So we can go ahead and get started. I'm just going to share my screen and just go over a couple really exciting things that we have going on that actually just came out today. And then I will introduce our special guest that we have on tonight, which I'm super excited to have. So I actually was looking at the countdown today, and we are 7 days away from this big event that you may have heard of that we have coming up next week, and that's International Convention. And we are not only celebrating being together, but we are celebrating 30 years as a company, you guys. This is going to be a once in a lifetime event. And yes, it is a week from tomorrow. And, you know, I'm super excited because we had some amazing information come out today. So if you haven't checked your email yet, check it. We actually had a guide that came out with, you know, our entire agenda. We've got tips on there as far as, you know, what to wear and, you know, what to wear each day and things that you should pack. So as you're packing to get ready to go, you know, check this out. It's really helpful, and share it with your team, share it with your guests so that they have all this information too. We also sent out a frequently asked question guide as well. This is only one page of it, but there's actually several pages, and we will actually keep adding to this document. So these are all live documents on your unfranchised.com. So you can go ahead and, if you want to download the PDFs, you can find them there. We also have a map of the arena. Just so you guys know, we're going to be going in a different entrance that we normally did not go into. So it's really important to kind of know where you're going to go. And I also wanted to touch, I mean, there's so much information to touch on. I'm not going to get into all of it. But if you are there Wednesday, go and register Wednesday at the arena. There is free parking that day. So you don't have to pay to park. You can just literally drive in, park, register ahead of time, check out the World of Market America, and kind of get a feel for where you're going to be going on Thursday when it starts. Because it's going to be, oh gosh, I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to see it because I've seen so much of the planning, but just wanted to share some of that info with you guys. But you guys, I'm super excited to have this amazing guest on tonight. In fact, he was like the one that I was like, Don, you are the one for this tonight, because he's got so much passion for our company. He has so much energy. Him and his wife, Lisa, who I get to work with regularly, which I love, are directors, you know, with our company. He's a former small business owner, and I'm going to actually have him share tonight, you know, how he was introduced to the business, but he has been partnered with Market America for 23 years. He's a certified trainer, $1 Million Club member, multiple President's Challenge winner. He's also the director of the UK GMTSS, does a ton for our company. He's also the Mid-East Regional Director. And one of his most important roles is, of course, a husband and father of 3. But I want to welcome you tonight, Don. And for those of you in the chat, like, I want to see you put 10s in the chat if you're excited to have Don on tonight, like I am. But welcome, Don.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor. And for the last, you know, countdown to the MAIC that we have to be on, to help people mentally prepare for what's about to come, I couldn't be more excited. So thanks for having me on, and thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, and I think I want to like get right into it. I want to know, how were you introduced to Market America?
Sure. So I interestingly enough, I was introduced to the business through a good friend and my accountant. I was in construction straight out of college. I went to college and I majored in baseball. So I didn't really focus on the school side of it. So because I majored in baseball, I just did enough schoolwork to get by and play, right? And I was elite in the baseball. I expected to play pro ball, but an injury kind of cut that short. And I had to figure out what else I was going to do. I finished up school, and the job market wasn't there for me at all that I was willing to at least entertain. So I decided to start a construction business similar to what my dad did. And I did well. I did really well with the construction business. I worked my butt off. But what happened is in a few short years, I realized that you could, I learned a lot of lessons. And one thing was you could always make more money, but you can never get your time back. I was doing well financially, but I was working all the time. Mm-hmm. And so my accountant, who I was introduced to through a very good friend of mine, a childhood friend, who owned real estate. And I always understood that I wanted to own assets. I wanted to own assets that generated income. I just didn't want to make money. But early in life, my dad got me a Nightingale Conant subscription, which is like today's Audible, right? You guys know Audible. Well, back then, Nightingale Conant, and in fact, I have it right here. They would send you tapes, cassettes in the mail. And my dad got me that when I was 17 years old because he wanted me to be educated, financially educated. And what I found is that every single successful person that was featured in all these audios that I listened to, they all owned income generating assets, whether they were business or real estate. They had businesses like business assets or real estate assets. And I always understood that that's what I wanted to do. So I started a construction company with the intent to start getting into the real estate world and create assets in real estate and eventually assets in business. That's what I wanted to do. So I understood that. My accountant told me about this, and after 4 months of being skeptical, because I thought this was one of those things, right? My dad was in multi-level marketing when I was a kid, and it never worked out multiple times, and it wasn't for the lack of effort. It was because they weren't designed for average people to win, right? So I finally looked at this business, but it wasn't because I was interested. It was because my accountant not only had his accounting firm, he had this business, but he had 60-something pieces of property, and he was a good referral source for my construction business. So the only reason why I looked, Leigh, was because I didn't want him to stop giving me referrals for construction. So I only evaluated to be a good networking partner with him to know enough about what he's doing. He knows about what I'm doing, so we can keep giving referrals. And I didn't want him to find somebody else that was willing to listen and give them the construction referrals. That's why I looked. I wasn't looking for this. Yeah. And when I saw the model, it was completely different from what I thought. I had all kinds of preconceived notions, as most people do, right? In fact, most people I run across still do. But man, I saw this and it was completely different. It was completely opposite. I had my dad come and evaluate it to make sure I wasn't missing something. And after he calmed down, because he thought I was getting hooked into something, and he saw the model, he said, this guy fixed every problem that I ever had experience in that industry. He goes, not only you should do it, but I want to do it too. So my dad was my first sponsor.
Wow.
I couldn't believe. I didn't think he was going to be interested at all.
Yeah.
So that's how I was introduced. And, the rest is history. So anyway, that's that.
Yeah. I mean, I love that. So for those of you that are tuning in on Facebook or on Zoom, can you relate to any part of Don's story so far? Because I know there's a couple things I'm like, yep, totally can relate. But I'm so glad that you kind of came across this business like you did, because it totally changed your life.
No doubt.
So, I mean, I have to ask, how long after you started your unfranchised business with Market America did you actually go to a major event like we're having next week?
Yeah, for sure. Well, let me say this. You just said this has changed my life. It's changed my life more than one way. And then I want to get to that because that was the reason why.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, back from there. And the most important of all is that I met Lisa when I was showing the plan in central Pennsylvania. So I met my wife, which has led to, family, 3 kids and a home with cars from the business. So for me, I've what this business has done for me, it's infinitely greater than just a financial benefit. Of course, it's a lifelong, a life-altering experience for me. And to answer the question, it's all because of one thing and why it happened. I was 23. I was 2 months before my 24th birthday when I was introduced to the business, and I decided to partner. My accountant, who showed it to me, and I saw the vision there, and I came and saw it. I went to an in-person unfranchised presentation. I will tell you, by the way, that was the main reason originally why I was able to understand it enough. I went to this in-person unfranchised presentation. It wasn't the plan that got me, even though at first that was an intriguing part. But what got me was the people that were there that were all making money too, that I was able to see, shake their hand, have a conversation with. It's not the info. That's why being back in person is so important right now, right? But nonetheless, I personally went, I saw it, I decided I wanted to get started, but my accountant cared enough about me to make sure that I got a ticket to that convention. And he wouldn't let me start without the ticket. And I got to tell you, I was in construction. I was working my tail off. And in August in construction, it's like one of your most busiest months of the year. So I wasn't about to sacrifice thousands of dollars. If he wasn't so adamant, if he didn't care enough about me, right, to insist that I go, I would never have went. And I promise you, I would not have lasted the next 6 months till the next event, because I was 23 and I was very, very susceptible to what people thought. And a couple of my friends gave me a really hard time, but because he made me buy that ticket and I end up going to that event, yes, it cost me some money. It probably cost me a few $1,000s of lost business at the time, but it's earned me. And I met Lisa, because I wouldn't have survived the next 6 months without that, with what I went through, without the belief that that event instilled in me. I wouldn't have made it 6 months. And that's why I'm so adamant right now for people to just get there, figure out, do whatever it takes. Listen, the difference between success and failure is simple. The people who succeed do what the people who fail decide not to do. They get creative and decide to get things done against all odds, whereas people that don't do it, they find the odds and purpose to make an excuse not to do. This is one of those testing times. This is a fork in the road for both yourself, if you're debating, but also the people in your team, if they're debating. You have to care enough about them to be honest and say, this is a fork in your road. You can take two decisions. You can take the easy way out and have every excuse to not go, and we all have justifiable reasons to not go, or you can take the other road, which can be an absolutely life-altering experience, like it was for so many people, right? Just because you're going to get the knowledge, the information, the education, the belief. You're going to build friendships. You're going to meet people. You're going to get the belief, not just from the information that's shared, but from meeting other people too that have succeeded, that you know you're just as smart as, and maybe you're better looking than them. You know, all these different things. It's just the entire experience changes your perspectives and changes the lenses that you look at the business through. And it makes it so you can survive through anything. And without that, it's easy to get derailed, right? It's easy to get derailed. So, you know, that's a major important fact. And without that, 3 weeks after I started is when I went, by the way.
3 weeks only. So you had 3 weeks to kind of scramble, get enough money, you know, make sure you didn't have any jobs lined up, and just like make that commitment, like, I'm getting there.
Leigh, I left the job half done. A lot of people don't know. I can't even tell you. I had a roof that was half done. It was a complicated roof, and it was interesting enough because I was actually doing one of my teachers from a high school's roof, Dr. Waski. I'll never forget it. And so some of you guys that went to Pennsbury know who I'm talking about. But half of his roof was done. The back half was stripped and tar paper with a tarp, but I had the ticket. So I left, and my guys were supposed to finish. They didn't while I was gone, right? They didn't finish. So for 4 days, that roof went undone. He was not happy at all. But it doesn't matter, because I figured out what it needed. And I, to this day, I thank God. I thank Norm for being so persistent and not letting me not go. It was that important. And, you know, without that, again, I probably wouldn't. I know I wouldn't have survived. I know it, because it's easy to get sidetracked by negative people when you don't have that basic fundamental belief that is only built at a large corporate event. It's the only place it happens.
Yeah. And I mean, it is really mind-blowing when you think about it, that it was just like one decision at the time that you made that really just projected you and changed your entire life. So like, think about that, you guys, like just making that one decision and like committing. And I think like for most people, once you make the decision, like I'm going, like you will figure out how to get there, right? The rest will just fall in place. But that's really the first step, is like committing yourself. And yes, we're a week away, but what would you say to that person? Like, you know, what was it about the event that kind of gave you the belief? Like, was there a certain magic moment that happened, or was it just the entire event? Like, can you even put into words what that was?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you asked that question, and there wasn't a single time that I can recall that was the moment that I got it. But it was a culmination of the entire experience. That's why it's so hard to explain why people need to be there. You know, you can't just say it's because of this one thing. That would make our life so much easier if it was, because it was easy to promote the business. But there isn't one time. There is not one experience. You might have your favorite part. Like one of my favorite parts was JR's close of that weekend. It was incredible. But that wasn't the thing that did it. It was the entire experience. It was meeting people that were making money that weren't any better than anybody else. It was, you know, seeing how everybody that was there believed in this thing, and also meeting people that had the same struggles and challenges that I had already within the first 3 weeks, but they overcame them because they learned how to do it. So it's just the entire experience in a nutshell that provides the belief, provides the vision. You take ownership, by the way, at that time. It also installs a bulletproof vest on you that you can't get anywhere else out there but at the event. And I'll also say too, I also think you get a new battery when you go to the event. See, I feel that you know, our UBPs, our in-person UBPs and our in-person local seminars and our in-person sessions, they recharge our battery. But I also feel in this business that our battery has a lifespan of about 6 months. So eventually, you know, in anything, a battery will stop charging. In your cell phone, no matter, you know, batteries will stop charging. So we actually get a new battery installed at our international convention. And then you could take a charge again by listening to audios and going to the locals and attending the UBPs just by charging them up. But every once in a while, you need that new battery because the battery just won't charge anymore. That's what the conventions do from an energy standpoint, you know, amongst everything else that they provide too.
Yeah. And I love that. I've heard you say that before, and that's a really great analogy because, you know, we all kind of need like a recharge, but recharges they don't always do the thing. So it's like just getting a new battery. Now, I kind of just feel like this event is going to be just different in so many ways, but the fact that, you know, it's been a couple years since we've had just an all in-person event. So I know you're also like really instrumental about talking about, you know, why it's important to get together in person. So do you want to just like touch on the importance of being physically around other people?
That there's nothing that'll ever replace that. It's kind of like you don't know what you have until it's gone. You know, I didn't really value, I always appreciated, I love being around people, but I didn't value or realize the necessity. Listen, we're a herd species. Humans are herd. We're not supposed to be alone. You know, in fact, you know, babies are required to have tactile stimulation after they're born, or else they would die. They couldn't even survive without having a human interaction and physical touch. So the reality of it is for us to think that when we get older, we don't need to have that community. The most important thing is people need experiences and to feel a part of something. That only happens in person. That only happens when you're surrounded by other people. It's the reason why when you go to a sporting event, it's a completely different experience when you're in person because the amount of energy that's in the arena versus just watching it on a television. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. You can enjoy watching a game on a television, but nothing, it's like not even the same game when you're there in person. It's the same thing here. And it just goes deeper in your mind. And the energy just delivers the information so much deeper and it cements it in your body. Whereas if it's just virtual, it can just deflect off because we have all the distractions in the world that can distract us. And we're not immersed. I guess that's the term. We just need to be immersed in the information, full immersion versus dipping our toe in it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. So I know, like, you know, like you said, we've all had challenges over the years, but I just want you to touch on maybe some of the challenges that you and Lisa have had, like, oh gosh, like how are we going to get to the event, you know, with the kids, and like, you know, for anyone out there that's like, well, I don't know what to do with the kids, or, you know, some of these challenges that you may have, like, what would you say to them?
You know, how bad do you want what you say you want? Now, that's the answer to the question. I mean, the reality of it is every single one of us has reasons to not be able to go, right? But I never consider one of them to not be there. You know, it just wouldn't be a second thought. Why? Because I know what it will do for me. And most importantly, even, or just as importantly, I should say, I know what it'll do for other people if they're there. But if I don't go, some people are going to see that and they won't go, and it could change. My life is pretty good. And I could probably afford not to be, I don't know if I could, but I could, at this point, I probably could afford not to go. But the reality of it is, if I didn't, it would negatively influence too many people's lives, because then some other people would decide not to go that need it. You follow me? So no matter what's happening in life, I had all kinds of reasons. One event, Lisa only missed one event. She was 8 months pregnant, and she made me go. She's like, hey, if I go to labor, you'll be able to get home. I'm like, goodness gracious, you're nuts. But why? Because we had new people, and we had, no problem, got home. It was a month after we ended up having Chase. It was all good. But she made me go, So everything. I remember one time where it was when I was still in construction, and my second World Conference, it was in Miami. It was a year and a half into the business, and I hadn't worked for like 3 or 4 weeks because we had a ton of snow. And when you're doing construction, mainly roofing, we couldn't do. Me, my dad, and this guy Andy, all three of us 6 foot tall. We drove down in a small Ford Escort from Pennsylvania, 21 hours each way. And I had no money. I mean, no money. I ate peanut butter and banana sandwiches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I got 2 bunches of bananas, a loaf of, I think it was like 1 or 2 loaves of bread, and a giant jar of peanut butter. And we were eating them in the park. I was eating them in the parking lot every single meal, because I couldn't afford anything else. I had every reason not to come. I didn't have the money. Even though I was making okay money in the business, I hadn't worked for 4 weeks. I needed more than the business was bringing in at that time just to survive. But I figured it out. I've brought my kids to the events. By the way, this event, they're free. So for the first time ever, you can bring your kids. They're free, and they'll have some things that kids will be able to engage in. It's going to be awesome. So they're eliminating every excuse beside the one you let yourself have. That's it. You can decide or not to be there no matter what's going on. And I've had people say, and I'm just going to put this out there, well, but I have I know I actually have several people in our group that have weddings on the weekend. So I said, totally cool. I get it. Come down for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday then.
That's a good point.
I have somebody in my group that came down their first event. They came down on Wednesday. They left on Thursday night. They came for the first day. They hit professional coordinator.
Wow.
Their first event. If they would have went to that, they'd have been gone too, because they had other network marketing experience, and that showed them what made us different. Wow. It's worth every single bit of effort, even if it's just to get down there for a day or 2 days. I have people that they're in the military. They can't come down until Friday night because they cannot get off service, but they're coming Friday night and they're going to stay for Saturday and Sunday. Still freaking worth it. Totally worth it. So here's the question I ask. And this is the thing that makes all the difference in the world. I want you to ask yourself this if you're still on the fence, or if you're already decided to commit to go. I want you to just ask the people that you're trying to convince. And by the way, you have to love them enough to let them know, I'm here to convince you. I'm here to try to persuade you to make a decision that can change your life to get there. I'm not going to, beat around the bush here. Yeah. Same with me. I had over $2,000 lost revenue plus whatever it cost to be there, a few $100 plus some travel expenses, maybe $500, $600 for my first one, because I roomed with people. I had 4 other people plus me staying together. I drove down with 2 people. We shared the cost. It was we got creative, but that money staying home won't change your life. But let me ask you a question. If you came down and you learned if staying home will impact your life more, stay home. If having a chance to do what I just talked or more, change your life more, figure it out, come down, and let's go for it.
I love that. And it's so true, because I, like you, I've never missed a major event. And from the beginning, I just made a commitment to myself. And that's where I learned everything that I started to do or it just gave me, I guess, the self-belief and, all of those, the self-growth that I got was really from events. And I think it's really important that you did say that we all have to kind of sacrifice something to get there. It might be something more for others, than it is maybe for us at the time, but if anyone is on the fence, like think about like, is there some way that you can get there? I mean, we've got a Facebook group set up. Like if you're looking for someone to share a room with or carpool with, we had discounts on airfare through our company. We've had, retail to MAIC where we helped you kind of earn money, but it's still not too late. Like we still have 7 days to figure out, how you can make it happen. And I also love that you said, even if you can come for a couple days, it's so worth it, right?
A day would still be enough. I mean, again, nothing beats being there for the full experience, especially this 30th anniversary. Like, I mean, but at the same time, I understand that people have lives and we're not judging, but I'm just saying, figure it out to be there a day. Honestly, it's still worth it no matter where you're traveling from. I don't care how much the flight costs. You have to understand too, the cost of this event, $200. Like I do other conferences, self-development. They're thousands of dollars. There's thousands of dollars, I'm doing one, Lisa and I are doing one in November, that's over $4,000.
Yeah.
Right? And that doesn't include food, travel, airfare, all this type of things. And this is $200.
Yeah.
I've had people say, well, my flight's $700 or $900. Big deal.
Yeah.
Like you're not going to get an event like this for less than a few grand anywhere else out there in the world. They just make it grassroots available to people with a very reasonable cost. It's worth it. And there's nothing else I could add to that because it's just, do you want your life to change?
I love that. So with the event being next week, like what is one of the things that you are most excited about next week? I know there's a lot, but
honestly, to see people's faces when they actually see what they really have in their hands. That's it. I mean, I am such a people person. I love to watch people evolve and grow, but man, what I just can't wait to watch not only the people that they have no clue what they're in. They have no freaking clue. They don't know because you don't know until you experience a true in-person international convention, which we have not had in almost 2.5, 3 years. Most people don't have a clue what they have. This is going to be an awakening for so many people. And I can't wait to watch people not only enjoy themselves, not only build some vision, but I also am looking forward to the gratitude that will follow by everybody that we as a collective convinced uncomfortably to be there.
Yeah.
They will have so much gratitude for you. They're going to be annoyed by you while you're trying to get them to come.
Yeah.
But once they're there, Leigh, for the first day or two, they're going to come up to you with such gratitude because you love them enough to push them harder than they wanted to be pushed to figure out a way to be there. And you literally you're going to change lives by doing it. So that's my favorite thing. Although there's going to be so much at the event too. The new MA world's going to be incredible.
Yes.
Having kids there, experiencing it, and that energy, I think, is going to bring another dynamic to the event. The sessions, the business building sessions, the basic fundamental business building sessions that I'm aware of, and I'm not aware of all of the stuff, but they're going to knock your socks off. You're going to learn how to grow this business and just so much. You're going to hear from great speakers. Mm-hmm. A lot of celebrity friends of the company are going to be there just pouring into everyone and brings a lot of legitimacy to what we're doing. So I'm really looking forward to it.
I love that. So for those of you that are like, okay, I've made the decision, I'm going to go. If you don't have a ticket, obviously reach out to those on your team, see if they have a ticket for you. If not, you can always get one at unfranchise.com. If you're a guest watching this, you can also go to marketamerica.com and just click on events. But if there's a way that you can get there, we would love to see you. And if so, come up to me and Dawn, introduce yourself. We would love to see you. We'll be there. We'll be walking around. We would love to meet you. But any final advice in closing tonight?
Yeah, for sure. Last thing I want to say is that there's still plenty of time. I mean, it's a week from tomorrow. And I will tell you, I personally, in my career, building into Greensboro, I get more commitments in the last 7 days than I do for the several months before, because we work so hard. And all of a sudden people, what people love to do? They love every once in a while to be a little bit crazy and a little spontaneous and just make a crazy decision that they're not used to making. Yeah. That's where they're the people that you're looking to talk to right now. So go out and share it and talk to more people over the next week than you have in the last year, and ask them if they would love to have a life-altering experience by doing something crazy and doing something spontaneous and coming to learn by investing a weekend and learning with a $200 ticket. You know, or quite frankly, if you have extra tickets and if you have people that are tight, I mean, there's nothing wrong with financing a ticket to somebody, right? Either letting them pay you over time, or even say, hey, I'm going to give you a ticket, or I have a ticket available that's already paid for. And the only thing I ask is you do the same thing for one person at the next event.
That's awesome.
Forward, you know, whatever it takes
to
get there. And man, I can't wait to watch this. To me, this is going to be the resurgence. We're going to resurrect, right? The in-person fundamental community building process that building this business in person brings. And you're going to see because that can help people stretch their dollars with our business. We can help them make more money, but it's also not taboo anymore to work from home, because the demand and need for what we have is greater than it's ever been. It's time to make a difference. So I love it. That's
a really good point. Even though we're celebrating our 30th year as a company, there's never been a right time. I mean, it's always the right time, right? And it's almost just the beginning. I've heard so many people say that, and you're so right. It really is a great thing to look at for sure.
Let's change some lives, baby. Let's go. Let's get them there.
Let's do that. Well, I really appreciate you taking time out and being here tonight. And thank you for those that joined us. We can't wait to see you next week. And if there's anything that we can do to help you get there, please reach out to us, or please reach out to your team. You know, everybody's here to help you guys, but thanks for joining us. And I will see you next week, Don.
I'll see you as well. Can't wait. See y'all.
Have a good night.